What if I told you the most life-altering habit you could ever adopt isn't something you have to master, but something you have to choose? It's not about learning a new technique, acquiring credentials, or waiting for the stars to align. It's a choice you can make right now. And the moment you do, your entire world starts to reorganize itself in what can feel like miraculous ways. But it's not a miracle. It's resonance, it's vibration, it's energy adjusting to the clarity of a decision made from the depth of your being. You've been led to believe that real change takes years, that you need more experience, more contacts, more degrees, or capital. But the truth, the principle Bob Proctor echoed again and again, is this: the instant you commit to a decision, the gears of reality begin to turn. That single decision becomes the architecture, and your frequency, your focus, your behavior, they all begin to align with the picture you've painted in your mind. It's not about working harder, it's about choosing with more authority. Take a look at your current reality, your finances, your relationships, your well-being. Everything around you is reflecting choices made in the past, whether consciously or not. Most people don't realize this. They think their circumstances are carved in stone, the result of fate or external forces. But you're starting to wake up. You're beginning to remember. And here's what you're remembering. Your surroundings don't dictate your choices. Your choices design your surroundings. You don't transform your life by hoping for a better one. You transform your life by making an unwavering decision that it will change. Not eventually, not when you feel more confident or sure, but now. The act of deciding is sacred. It's not just mindset, it's metaphysical. It broadcasts a signal into the field of potential that says, I'm aligned, I'm willing. And when that signal is fueled by trust instead of tension, the entire matrix of existence responds. Bob Proctor wasn't merely a motivational speaker. He was an interpreter of the invisible laws. He took cosmic principles and translated them into language we could live by. And if there was one core idea he returned to time after time, it was this: everything begins with decision. Not intelligence, not hustle, not timing, decision. Think about it. The Wright brothers didn't wait for approval or certainty. They decided to defy gravity. JFK didn't wonder if the moon landing was practical. He declared it as fact. Edmund Hillary didn't ask the mountain if it was ready. He chose to summit. That kind of resolve, that clarity of intent, lifted them above fear, doubt, and logic. So ask yourself, what have you been delaying? What dream, what mission, what future have you been orbiting, waiting for permission or validation? Because here's the raw truth. Life doesn't move for hesitation. It moves for resolve. Even your hesitation is a form of energy. And that energy communicates, I'm not certain, I'm not ready. But what if you flip the script? What if your decision came first? What if you stood firm in it, unshakable, as if your soul depended on it? Because in some sense, it does. You're either evolving or shrinking, progressing or retreating. There is no standstill in energy. Every moment you stall, the version of life waiting for you slips a little further away, not because it's out of reach, but because you're turning away from it. Nothing is being withheld from you. The universe isn't stingy, but it cannot deliver what you haven't claimed in frequency. Let me repeat that. Reality can't bring you what you haven't energetically said yes to. So what does claiming look like? It means seeing it clearly within and selecting it with your entire being. It means anchoring to the inner vision with your heart, not just your mind. That's not a passive wish. It's a tuning fork. It's vibration. And once you're tuned in, the world begins to mirror that vibration back. Doors open, people appear, unlikely paths begin to light up. But it all begins with an inner turning point. And that turning point is your decision. You might think, but I don't know how it will all come together. That's not your role. The decision is your role. The how unfolds through the decision. The problem most face is that they want the entire blueprint before they make the move. But the map is revealed step by step as you walk. You don't need external approvals. You don't need the full strategy. You don't need a guarantee. What you need is a deep, soul-anchored decision, one that leaves no back doors, one that says, this is who I choose to be now. This is the life I'm living, and I won't retreat. That's when momentum ignites. That's when unseen forces activate. Within you are faculties far more powerful than any external condition. Your imagination, your will, your intuitive knowing. These aren't random traits, they're instruments of creation, but they only awaken in the presence of decision. They respond to intention, not indecision. When Bob Proctor said you were born rich, he wasn't referring to dollars. He meant essence. He meant latent brilliance. He meant the creative force within you is already intact, but it lies dormant until you give it direction. So I ask you now, what are you choosing? What signal are you transmitting? Because even not choosing is a broadcast. Even silence sends out a frequency. The beauty is, no matter how long you've wandered, no matter how many detours you've taken, one clear choice can shift your entire trajectory. You're never more than one real decision away from a radically different life. That's not just an inspiring idea, it's a spiritual law, and you've tasted it before. Those moments when you knew, when you stepped forward without knowing the outcome, and reality rose up to meet you. That wasn't luck. That was alignment. And that surge of power, it didn't come from outside, it came from within. Now imagine living from that frequency, not just in flashes, but as your normal. Imagine beginning each day as if the version of you already has it is the one making the choices, not the version that hesitates, not the one attached to doubt, but the one who knows it's already done. That's what decision does. It doesn't wait for the future. It brings the future into the now. It dissolves the gap between who you've been and who you are becoming. And here's the truth most won't tell you. Decision isn't comfortable. It means leaving behind the familiar identity, the part of you that says, let's wait until we're sure. That part seeks shelter, predictability. But inner evolution isn't polite. It asks for boldness. Because to rise, to step into more, is to let go of who you no longer are. And you're ready for that. You feel it. That pressure inside, that discontent, it's not weakness. It's a summons. It's the echo of your soul saying you're not meant to stand still. It's time to move, to choose, to become. Every shift in human history began not with strategy, but with a decision, a clear, unshakable inner resolve. And it was that frequency, that unrelenting certainty that shifted everything else. Because decision puts you in a new vibration, and vibration is everything. As Bob Proctor taught, it's the frequency you live in that determines your results. You don't magnetize what you desire, you magnetize what you're in sync with. So when your inner world aligns with your decision, your outer world has no choice but to reflect it. And this isn't just theory. Look back. Remember a time you fully committed when you said, this ends now, or this is who I am, or this is what I'm doing. What happened next? Something moved. Energy shifted. Doors cracked open. That wasn't a coincidence. That was your signal being received. Because life honors clarity. It doesn't move for mixed signals. It flows to conviction. And that is the habit that reshapes your world. The habit of choosing with conviction. Not once, but over and over. Because decision isn't a one-time event. It's a way of being. It's how you meet life the moment your eyes open. You decide who you are. You decide what you accept. You decide what reality gets your allegiance. Most live on autopilot, reacting to what shows up. But not you. You're being summoned to design. That's why you're hearing this now. That's why this message reached you. And maybe the fear is still whispering, but what if I fail? The truth is, only indecision guarantees stagnation. Because even if your decision doesn't yield the expected result, it ignites momentum. It changes your state. It declares to life, I'm no longer waiting. And that's when new energy flows. Bob Proctor often said, don't go to the ocean with a teaspoon. The abundance of life is infinite, but it responds to how much you're willing to expect. And expectation is born from decision. So if you want greater results, raise your standard. And to raise your standard, choose it now. Choose to believe your dream is possible. Choose to know that your longing is sacred. Choose to trust that your vision is not fantasy, it's guidance. You weren't sent here to chase. You were born to embody. Visualize the version of you who already lives that reality. That version exists right now on a parallel frequency. How do they walk? How do they speak? How do they respond? Start embodying that version now, and the gap disappears. Not through force, but through resonance. That's why Bob Proctor stressed accessing the higher side of your nature. Your inner faculties, imagination, reason, will, perception, aren't abstract. They are the operating system of transformation. But they only come online when you stop letting the outside world lead your choices and start building from within. This habit isn't about action alone. It's about identity. It's about choosing to exist in the vibration of completion. As Neville Goddard taught, feel the wish fulfilled. Don't chase evidence, become the evidence. When you live that way, uncertainty fades, not because fear disappears, but because your choice is louder than your fear. Your whole body responds to that. Your nervous system resets. The quantum field, which is shaped by feeling and intent, begins to mirror your signal. This isn't theory, it's science. Spiritual law and quantum law are twins, and both obey the same truth. Energy follows commitment. Now imagine rising tomorrow with no more doubt, no more negotiating with your power, no more waiting, just the quiet certainty of someone who knows what they came here to become. That's the frequency that bends timelines. That's the energy that rewrites legacies. And it all begins with a decision, a real one, not a maybe, not a wish, but a wholehearted, whole-body yes to the life you were born to live. So today, you choose, not someday, not when it feels safe. Now, you say yes to the future you already feel inside. You declare your vision is valid. You affirm that your past doesn't limit your future. You trust that your desire is divine guidance. And from this moment forward, you live like the choice is already made. Because the habit that reshapes everything is the habit of choosing it again and again and again. Begin choosing your path with awareness. You start to see that decision isn't just a thought process, it's a sacred promise. It's an energetic agreement with the cosmos that declares, I believe, I welcome, I receive. And when you reach that depth of certainty, your entire reality reorganizes itself around that signal. You're no longer at the mercy of circumstances. You become the conductor of them. And that's not ego. That's resonance. It's the realization that you were never meant to hide in your doubts or dissolve into the noise around you. You were born to influence your surroundings through the energy you anchor. There's a reason Bob Proctor taught transformation from the inside out. He didn't teach people how to patch their outer world. He taught them to elevate their self-perception. Because your self-image is the setting on your inner thermostat. You can try to outwork your current results. You can grind and strain. But if your inner identity stays the same, you'll always snap back like elastic to your old level until you redefine yourself from the inside. And here's what most overlook. You're allowed to choose a version of yourself you've never been. You don't need to qualify for it. You don't need to justify it. You just claim it. And then you live out of that identity, not moving toward it, but embodying it now. That's the true transformation. You stop striving and you start sinking. This is where it turns quantum. You begin showing up as though the vision you hold is already your lived experience, not faking it, but becoming it. There's a big difference. Pretending stems from disbelief. Embodiment is rooted in certainty. Bob used to say that faith is the ability to perceive what the eyes can't see and trust in the extraordinary. It's the highest octave of decision. When you move from faith, you don't wait for confirmation. You become the confirmation. You carry it. You breathe it in. And that's when the world begins to reflect it. Because energy is honest. People pick up when your energy is unsettled. The universe detects when you're uncertain. But when your frequency stays consistent, when your choice reverberates with full alignment, everything around you begins to recalibrate. You don't push, you don't chase, you simply walk in rhythm with your intention. But hear this clearly, resistance will surface. It always does. Resistance doesn't mean you took the wrong path, it means you're finally on the right one. It's the old identity clinging for relevance, but you've stepped beyond that. You've made your choice. And when fear tries to creep in, you remind it, this isn't negotiable. This is who I've become. You see, most people are more loyal to their current situation than to the one they desire. They speak of transformation, but their energy, their mental loops, their habits keep echoing the same script. And life simply mirrors what you rehearse. But you're scripting something new. You're no longer thinking from the limitation. You're thinking from the outcome. You've stepped out of scarcity. You're resonating with fulfillment. You've chosen. And you've chosen energetically. That's what recalibrates timelines, what shifts outcomes. You're not asking, can I have this? You're proclaiming, it's already mine. This is what Bob meant when he said, you are immersed in a field of motion. Nothing is solid. Your results aren't fixed reality. They're reflections of repetitive thinking, and repetition is just rhythm. The moment you set a new rhythm, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, you put new momentum in motion. And momentum is transformative. You felt it before. Those moments when everything seemed to align, when signs arrived in clusters, when progress unfolded without strain. That's not random. That's resonance. That's your clarity in action. And once that clarity is locked in, you don't need to wonder if. You only need to walk it out. You only need to live as if it's already arrived. Because the subconscious doesn't distinguish between what's physical and what's vividly sensed. So when you begin experiencing your vision in real time, through your breath, your posture, your daily choices, you shorten the space between what's possible and what's present. And your deeper mind follows. That's when old programming begins to dissolve. Limiting beliefs start to lose their grip. Why? Because your vibration no longer affirms them. You're not battling the old version. You're simply outgrowing it. And that's a more efficient path. You don't need to resolve every past trauma before moving ahead. You don't have to unravel every false belief. You just need to starve them of your attention and feed your vision instead. Energy flows where attention is placed. So direct it wisely. Direct it purposefully. Direct it consistently. Every time fear tries to reclaim you, you recommit. Every time you notice yourself shrinking, you realign. Every time that inner voice questions your worth, you reply with deeper certainty. I am the one who decided, and I stand in that decision. You start moving through the world with a quiet power, not brashness, but conviction. People sense it. Situations shift, not because you're pushing harder, but because you're fully congruent. And the beautiful irony, the more anchored you are in your new frequency, the lighter life feels. Why? Why? Because there's no more contradiction. Your thoughts, your emotions, your choices, your actions, they're in coherence. That's when your energy draws things to you. That's when life begins to unfold as flow. And flow doesn't mean ease without effort. Flow means grace through challenge. You move with clarity, with calm, with inner fire, because you know the outcome is already set. You're not gambling, you're holding the signal, holding the belief, holding your ground. That's what makes you unstoppable. Not how hard you push, but how steady you remain. That's what moves the immovable. That's what etches legacy. That's what transforms your reality. And it all starts with one profound inner shift, choosing and living from that choice. Again and again, until the gap disappears between who you are and the life you were meant for. When you hold your decision long enough, something remarkable happens. You stop seeking constant motivation. You stop begging for external proof. You stop asking the universe for signs, because you become the sign. You are the signal. You're no longer striving for alignment. You are the alignment, and people will feel it. They may not understand it, but they'll sense the shift. Because true change isn't loud, it radiates. You don't need to announce it. Your frequency does the talking. You'll witness obstacles dissolving, people showing up, circumstances adjusting, but it all started within. You lifted your frequency. You stepped into a higher version, and the outside world simply caught up, because that's how creation works. It's universal law. As within, so without. As above, so below. When your internal standard rises, life has to meet it. But know this, the past will try to pull you back. Not because it's hostile, but because it's known. The mind clings to familiarity, even when it limits you. That's why you must choose again and again, until there's no hesitation left. This is why so many don't follow through. They decide once, but don't embody it. They make a choice, then debate it with themselves the next day. They say, I'll try, instead of I will. And try weakens the signal. It signals uncertainty. It says you haven't fully let go of other options. But you're done with plan B. You're done with delays. You're done postponing the reality that's already yours. Bob Proctor often said, you can't climb to a higher level while clinging to the lower. So if you're still gripping to outdated opinions, limiting stories, or environments that don't reflect your vision, then your choice hasn't yet taken root. Release it, not in anger or rebellion, but in honor of the person you're becoming. You don't need to destroy the old. Just devote yourself to the new, with all of you. Because choosing your dream isn't just selecting a new result, It's selecting a new self. And that version has a different stance, a deeper tone, a clearer standard. You'll begin noticing what you once tolerated now feels misaligned. That's not regression, it's proof of expansion. You've outgrown the old resonance. Like a snake shedding a skin, the previous layer wasn't a mistake, it was part of the journey. But now it's time to stretch. Growth is discomfort. Growth is stretching. Growth is recommitting, especially when it feels hardest. That's when it matters. It's simple to decide when all is well. It's sacred to decide when nothing is certain. That's what Bob emphasized. Not surface optimism, but embodied transformation. You're becoming someone brand new, and that means stepping into unfamiliar ground. But you're not unsupported. Each step taken from your higher self is accompanied by unseen forces. Insights appear, allies show up, miracles align with your choice, but they arrive after the commitment. That's the part many miss. You're waiting for proof, but proof is waiting on your decision. That's how trust operates. That's how faith ignites. It doesn't offer guarantees, it offers power. And when you claim that power, the evidence follows. Imagine starting your day with this one discipline locked in. Before you even rise, you've calibrated your frequency. You've reaffirmed your vision, not to experiment, but because it's done. Now imagine carrying that frequency throughout your day. You speak with authority. You no longer explain your dreams. You don't shrink to fit others' fears. You no longer second guess your value because the choice is made. There's a calm in that, a sacred confidence. Not bravado, but embodiment. You're not seeking applause because you validated yourself. You've chosen your path. You've chosen your evolution. You've chosen your authenticity. And every choice you make from that space sends out a ripple, a signal, a frequency that reshapes what's possible. Not someday, but today, now. This moment. Bob Proctor knew this deeply. He wasn't just talking about wealth. He was teaching self-mastery. Teaching that a mind aligned with spirit becomes a generative force. And that's not poetic, it's law. You've heard the phrase, thoughts become things. But only when they're fused with belief and action. Otherwise, they're just ideas. Unclaimed potential. But you're claiming now. You're no longer gambling your future to chance. You've decided to act as if the finish line is already crossed. Because on a spiritual level, it is. The choice made in consciousness is complete. The only gap is how quickly you align with it. So let this be your threshold. The moment you release the past, the moment you cut ties with fear, the moment you stop silencing your greatness. Because the habit that transforms your world isn't effort, it isn't sacrifice, it isn't timing. It's this. You rise and you decide, not who you were, but who you truly are, who you choose to be, boldly, immediately, without apology or delay. That's when your vibration shifts. That's when the world starts responding to your inner command. That's when everything transforms. And so let this be the line in the sand. The moment you stop circling the life you desire and step into it, not through force, but through frequency, not by hoping, but by deciding, because your future doesn't need more time. It needs your full yes. No more waiting, no more wavering. The signal has been sent, the path is aligning, and the universe is listening. So rise, not as the version that's hoping to become, but as the version who already is. Choose it, anchor it, live it. Because the habit that changes everything is becoming the one who already chose.